All right, welcome to How You Slice It podcast. Today, our guests Shin, Irvin, and Chef Melissa López share the personal story and inspiration behind the popular slice shop Shin's Pizza in LA's Cypress Park. At Shin's, you'll find New York-style pizza that features non-traditional Asian ingredients and unique side dishes rooted in nostalgia, which was something that I was really drawn to and one of the reasons why we're here today. We'll talk about the creative process behind building the menu and the design of the shop and how art and music plays such an important role in the overall ambiance of this gem. Welcome to How You Slice It, Shin and Melissa. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So let's dive into it. I'd always love to learn more about the background story, the founding story of the business of the shop. Shin's Pizza was inspired by your mother. I'd love to hear more about how this led to you opening the pizzeria and how the partnership between you, Shin, and Melissa came to be about.
Well, the inspiration came from my childhood, really. Growing up in Philadelphia, every Friday was pizza night for my mother and I, and it was probably my favorite part of the week. Pizza first of all, and then Friday, and then get to spend time with my mom, which she was only mother, so like only parent. So I rarely got to see her except nights like Fridays and weekends. So we kind of made it a tradition without making it a tradition. And that was probably the only time I could actually have soda also. Which was taken, like my mother would feed me milk every meal, so I had she thought that would help me grow and things like that. So pizza night was definitely one of those things I look forward to. And from that, unfortunately my mom passed away in 2020, and I was, grieving, and I was thinking like, what could I do to actually, honor her a little bit, as much as I can. And I thought, well, I wanted to open something up before the pandemic, which was going to be a bar. But then I decided that, in honor of my mom, that a pizzeria might be a cool idea, especially in LA, where I feel like the East Coast style pizza is not really represented as much. And I missed it, and wanted to kind of sort of replicate that feeling here in LA.
Incredible. And then how did you and Melissa meet?
I met Melissa through my business partner, Adam and Holly. So I met Adam and Holly a long time ago doing design projects, and I just randomly met them, just kept running into each other. And then I really got, Adam and I hung out quite a bit, and I really got to know them and like them. And now I, am business partners with them. And I just love what they were doing with their other projects as well. So we talked about doing something together, and this was one of the things that came up. And it was really Adam and Holly that found Melissa, thank God, because she is definitely the soul of this restaurant, and like everything that's created in the restaurant is really comes from her and her mind. So that's kind of the story how we met.
I love that. Melissa, Cypress Park did not prior to Shin's Pizza have this sort of style and vibe to the industry. And walk us through how, each of your backgrounds inspires the menu and the creations that you've worked on at the shop.
Yeah, I think, Shin, thank you for saying always kind words about me. It's very sweet. So I worked at Barbuto in New York, and then at Bestia here in Los Angeles. And I think working at those two restaurants with Chef Jonathan Waxman and Chef Ori Menashe gave me the foundation of flavors and building and layers and all those things that I don't think you get at a lot of restaurants, So when we opened Shins, those are things that they taught me like back in the day were always at the forefront of building layers and seasoning. And pizza's a very difficult restaurant to manage and to open. It's dough itself is just a whole other level of cooking that I had experience with, but never like dove so deep into it. So that was tricky to get the dough situated and then to kind of top it all. That's like a whole other layer of difficulty, I think. And I think that people have this expectation that pizza's easy and that it's definitely fun, but it's not. It's kind of hard. So having that foundation from those mentors that I've had really helped me build pizza that I'm very happy with and proud with. And we're very lucky to have a lot of people that work here who have the same passion and love for food that I do, and that's like the best part of working here.
I love that, and I think that obviously shows in the end product, and it's consistent with some of the best shops that I come across. That sort of authenticity and creative process is so crucial to the end experience and the product. One of the things that comes across through the experience is the art and music side of the brand. I don't know if that was Melissa or Shin. Like, walk me through that aspect of the business, because it's just awesome. One of my favorite things about Shin's Pizza. And by the way, anyone can check it out on Instagram. It's Shin's Pizza, just at Shin's Pizza. But yeah, walk me through that part.
Sure. I guess I can answer that question.
Yeah, that's probably better go.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I have a design company called Folklore, and I've helped a lot of restaurants with their brands and sometimes interior design. And through that process, I've met a lot of talented human beings, including artists, sculptors, architects. So throughout the years, I just became friends with all of them. And I also love art. And I felt like, even though it's a small little shop, wouldn't it be cool to have like just art that's completely like constantly added, you know? Because I remember in Philadelphia when I used to go to Jim Steaks, one of my favorite things was the autograph wall that they have there with all the celebrities. So every time I came, there was like a new one or like something else that I can look at. And I always felt like, oh, maybe I can take that idea and put it into a smaller space and keep adding artwork. I mean, we don't have that much room, but you know, there's enough to kind of curate something interesting there. And also, the music is. I also worked for music companies back in the day. I worked for Motown and MCA doing album covers when there were actually album covers. Um, so through that process, I learned how to listen to music. I learned how to distinguish good music, at least I think anyway. And I always think like a brand and any kind of experience is not just like one thing. It's a culmination of um, all the senses that we have, which includes smell, taste, your ears, and just what you see. So um, I always think about that when I'm putting together or working on any kind of project. Um, I try to think of all those components that make up that one thing. So yeah, it's just through my experience that I think I figured out a way to kind of like use all of it to create something wonderful. Um,
And it certainly comes across the experience. Melissa, I'm going to shift a little bit more to the creative process and around the product. Walk us through how you sort of progressed with your dough making process and how you landed on the current product that you have. Specifically, something about the amount of water you use, and I'll walk me through that. That's actually a pretty exciting aspect.
Yeah, so I had R&D'd it for, geez, like 3 or 4 months. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't seem like a very long time. We had opened Bar Santos before, which is our Portuguese restaurant right next door. And so to kind of step away from that and focus on Shins was a little bit difficult, but we were able to find some time to do that. But I knew that I wanted to have like a dry yeast kind of like poolish kind of starter, just because it was a little easier to control and a little less temperamental than like a sourdough starter. And I kept working on it, and it always felt a little bit off. And I spoke to a friend of mine. His name is Diego, and he's the chef at Poultrygeist here in Los Angeles. And he had a lot of experience working with dough and bread at Bestia when I knew him there. And I asked him to stop at the shop, and he stopped by and he like touched the dough, and he's like, yeah, it's just, whenever I'm making a recipe, it's like always increments that I take off or put in. And I think I took 50 grams of water out of my initial recipe, and then I made it. It's like a 2-day process. And then the second day I made the pizza, and it was like, I was like, this is it. And to go through that process for a few months and to realize that it was 50 grams of water that I needed to take out was like mind blowing to me. And I'm very grateful for all the people that I've worked with in the past, and to kind of be able to count on those people to help you out is a real blessing for me. So yeah, it's a really great, has like sour notes to it, but it's very reminiscent of pizza I grew up eating in New York. And that's what I love about it, is like a slice of cheese fresh out of the oven is like, if you close your eyes and you take a bite, it reminds me very much of Joe's Pizza on Bleecker Street, which was one of my favorite stomping grounds when I worked in New York for late night bites. So to be able to like create that and create memories for other people, hopefully, as Joe's created memories for me as a young cook, like that's the best thing that I could ever ask for.
And I always like to say the best topping on a great pizza is no topping. So I'm
exactly, yeah, that's very true.
On the cheese
yeah.
pizza.
I used to have a chef that used to say the simple food is the hardest food to make, and like pizza is the epitome of that, especially like a slice of cheese if it's really great.
I couldn't agree more. And look, the shop is still relatively new. There's so many people who are going through a similar journey, or aspiring operators who are looking to launch their own shop anywhere around the country. What have been some of the both growing pains, but also moments of celebration in your first year or so launching and operating the shop?
So I think that some of my best advice to anyone who's going to do this is to write everything down. Like any recipe that you're starting to develop, anything that you think is going to be good, like just write it down, because you never know when you can come back to that as a tool. I think some of the highlights is just making really good pizza and people like coming back and saying, oh my God, that pizza reminds me of this, or, I've never tasted a salad like that, or, creating memories that like I had as a kid at a pizza shop. It wasn't like a local shop by any means, because I grew up in a small town, but like Shin had Friday night pizzas with his mom. And I hope that we're creating memories like that for other people in the neighborhood. But it's not an easy business by any means. And I think the biggest thing for me is, I've been a chef for a long time, and obviously a cook before that, but, having like, you have somebody who's making dough, you have somebody who's stretching dough, topping, cooking, and then slicing and then serving. That to me was the most difficult thing, is because I didn't have as much control as I would have had in other restaurants. So learning to trust people was a really big learning curve for me. But I'm super grateful for the team that we have and the time and the effort that they've put in to get better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Melissa as far as like, taking a step back and, letting people do what they do best, and like allowing space for them to grow as well, because I think just from experience, when I started my design career, I think I was a little bit more like I wanted to control everything. And the reality is you can't. And for me, if I were to give advice, it would be to really, really look at the bigger picture and like take a step back and make sure you fill everything with the right people and personalities that can, help support that. But you also have to allow them to do what they do. Otherwise, you're gonna be the only person that's gonna be in the shop.
Yeah.
Point. So
yeah, everything's going to be dependent on you, and then you get burned out. And I see this time and time again. Too many owners want to control every little piece of the process and every part of the experience, and they've got trouble letting go. And it's very rarely a formula for success. Very often, when I ask what is the formula for success for some of the more long tenured shops, successful brands, it's usually almost always about the team, the staff, and the empowerment that exists in the shop and the trust. I think, Melissa, to your point. When we look forward, when we look ahead, let's fast forward 3 years, 5 years. What is Shin's Pizza? Is it an iconic single shop in Cypress Park? Is it multiple locations? Is it a lifestyle brand? What is it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had dreams of actually having multiple shops, and no expectations as far as a lifestyle shop. I mean, I know there's brands out there that focus on they do pizza, but they also do other things with with lifestyle. For me, I think I rather focus on just what the product is and the pizza, and more about the community than building some sort of cool little brand that you're wearing the sweatshirt or the hat or whatever it is. So yeah, for me, I see multiple shops, and especially in neighborhoods where there's community, and yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I think the same thing. I would want it to be like a neighborhood pizza shop in, 6 or 7 neighborhoods here in LA, but just like it's small, it's local, it's helping the community and being a part of a community.
Yeah, for sure.
I really admire that. And in terms of the process of launching the shop, what would you say was the most difficult part? Was it, finding the staff? Was it, perfecting the brand, or was it the real estate aspect? Like, when you think about opening the next shop, what is the part that you really dread? What is the part you don't want to go through, but you have to, right?
Let's see. For me, I think it's just being smart about the layout of the kitchen. We do sides to order, so it almost feels like you're running 2 restaurants in one. You're doing like the pizza side and then the side. So I think for me, from my kitchen perspective, is just having a little bit better layout in the kitchen. I mean, obviously we make it work, but it could be way more efficient. And now that we have like the dough down and all of our recipes kind of dialed in, I think opening up another shop would be a lot easier in that respect. But, opening up a restaurant in a huge city is never an easy thing.
Yeah, I would say it's not easy, but I also think I think we're lucky to be doing what we're doing. I want to see it from this perspective that I'm getting to do what I want to do and with people that I care about. And for me, like, I think that's enough to overcome any sort of challenge or obstacles. The way I feel about it.
Glass half full, glass half
Every
full,
morning.
always, Shin.
Yeah, and it wasn't meant to be about a deterrent. It was really more about just creating an understanding and sort of highlighting what goes into actually launching a location, and how important that whole process can be.
Yeah, I think staffing too can be hard. I mean, we've been very lucky to have kept most of the people that we started with when we first opened. But, staffing and training people is always a difficult part of opening any restaurant.
In the city of LA.
Is it, permits and all that good stuff? Is that the issue?
LA is a huge city with lots of money, and for some reason we're pretty slow.
It's it's not the most efficient city by any means.
It's not very efficient.
No.
Show me an efficient city and I will move there. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe Texas. I don't know.
Maybe.
They want,
Maybe. Awesome. This has been super, super helpful and just an amazing conversation. I really want to thank you for your time today. If there's anything else you'd like to share, I'll turn the mic to you. Otherwise, really appreciate your time. And I don't want to take up too much time. And obviously, I want to make sure you have time to get back to the shop.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. This has been great. It's so nice to meet you, and it's always fun to hear Shin's story. I've heard it 1,000 times now, I feel like, but I love it every time.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And one thing I had to say is that I'm very thankful for Melissa, and she is the best. That's all.
That's very sweet.
That's all I
Yeah.
have to. I'm gonna end it like that.
I've known
Yeah.
Melissa for 20 minutes, and I can say the same thing.
That's very sweet.